Hi, BrenTech here, where tech is made simple. Today I will show you how I speed up Windows 10. Now through the years I've found Windows 10 to be quite clunky out the box and slow. So what I like to do when I work on any Windows 10 machine is I follow this process more or less to speed up Windows 10. Now the first thing I do is I check how many programs are running in the bottom right of the taskbar. And if there are programs that I'm not using or the person is not using, what I do is I right click on the taskbar and I go Task Manager, and then I go to Startup. And here it goes without saying that the more startup programs you have when Windows runs, the slower your computer will be, as there are more processes than running in the background. Even if you don't see a program when you start Windows, it doesn't mean it doesn't start. So go through this list, just click on the entry and disable if you see anything you definitely aren't using. But don't go crazy here. Just disable software you know for sure you don't need when Windows starts. So that is the first thing I do. The next thing I do is I go to my recycle bin, I right click on it and I go Properties, and then I make sure that the size of my drives or partitions are no bigger than 3%. So that is 3% of 412 gigabytes, and that is 3% of 372 gigabytes. Then I go into the Start menu, and then I go to Settings. Now there are a lot of little things we can change in settings to help speed up the Windows process. Just to say that before we begin, you can, all these things that I'm doing today, all these little tweaks I'm doing to Windows 10 and have done are reversible. So you can always, reset it if you're not happy with the setting when you have changed it. Notifications and actions. I turn off all notifications except show notifications on the lock screen. Then I go down and I go to storage, and here I go to temporary files. I do this at least once a week. I click on temporary files. I let it scan for files it can delete. And then once that's done, I run the process of deleting temporary files that my computer doesn't need from my Windows machine. Let's just let this run quickly, and then I can show you what I do with that. So there are other things here you can look at. But the main one is temporary files is the biggest culprit here when it comes to clutter on your computer. You can see here, you can just click the ones you want. I've just done this just now, so there aren't that many temporary files to clean, and you just go remove files. And that gets rid of all the junk and temporary files on your Windows 10 PC. Totally safe to do, and nothing you delete there will actually harm your operating system. And then I go to multitasking, and I make sure snap windows is off. That is when you snap windows to the corners, and you can basically view two windows open on your desktop at the same time. I make sure that is off, something I never use, and it just takes up extra processes. Now the next thing I want to do is go to clipboard. I never use the clipboard, so I make sure both these settings are off. Obviously, if you use clipboard, don't turn off, but I'll make sure those are off. And then I go to About. This is where the new system properties is. And I go to Advanced System Settings. Let's just drag that to the center. Then I go to Hardware, Device Manager. Let's just maximize this. And then I go View, Show Hidden Devices. And that shows all the devices, even the hidden ones on your computer. And if there's anything here with an error next to it, and there's not on my PC because obviously everything's up to date, I go on down and I find the drivers and I update it. Because a driver out of date or not performing properly can really mess up the running and the performance of your PC. So I'll check that all my drivers here, there's no errors and everything is okay there. Then I go to Advanced. Now this is a big section of the performance section where you can speed up Windows. First thing I do is I click on, under Performance, I click on Settings, and I uncheck I go custom and I uncheck the animations I'm not using. And you can always pause this on the video if you want to check this later. But for time's sake, I'm going to move on. I'll just make sure that the ones enabled now are the only ones, the menu cosmetics for the menus and windows and that are running. I don't like the whole lot running for all the eye candy. And these I found with these checked, you still get the bling, but it helps with your performance and the snappiness of your windows. Then I go to advanced, and I've over the years I first of all make sure I've got programs checked, not background services, and then I go to virtual memory. Now virtual memory is a subject up for debate, and I've through the years tried putting it onto my secondary partition, and I have tried static drives at different sizes, and I've actually found after years of working with Windows that just leaving it at automatically manage page and file sizes for all drives is the best setting for me. Then when I'm finished with that, I click OK. Okay, it wants me to restart, but I haven't changed anything. We won't worry about that now. And then that's in that section there. And then obviously you click apply. I'm not going to do that now. Then the next one I go to is settings, startup and recovery. And I make sure that this goes from 30 seconds to 3. That is the time it takes for my operating system to show when I start Windows. Time to display a list of operating systems. I find 3 seconds is more than enough. The rest you can just leave the same. Obviously today I'm not actually changing settings because I've done this already. So in your case, just click OK or apply when you have changed a setting. And then I go to system protection, and I make sure my system drive is always got system protection on it. My data I turn off, and I click on there and I go configure. And just like the recycle bin, I make sure that this slider goes down to 3%. So I don't have more than 3% showing. That's 11.18 gigabytes for my system partition. That's more than enough system restore points to have on my PC. You can see I've got 10.66 allocated already. So if anything goes wrong with my system or there's an error, I can always, I've got at least 5 or 6 restore points I can go back to, and that is more than enough. And system restore, a lot of people turn system restore off because it can impact the performance of your PC because it is a service running in the background all the time. I leave it on because I find that it's helped me out of many a sticky situation through the course of my experience on Windows. So I leave that as is. And then remotes. If you don't use remote assistance, make sure remote assistance is turned off. That kills another process in the background. Okay, that is the system done. Devices. Always, if I'm not using Bluetooth, I always make sure it's off. Printers and scanners. Any printers and scanners you aren't using, this can also pile up very quickly. Just click on it and remove device and take it off your system. Autoplay, I make sure this is off. If I plug in a USB or whatever on my Windows 10 operating system, I just go to File Explorer manually and I open it from there. I don't need autoplay to be running all the time, and that actually kills a service you don't need running all the time in the background. USB, you can turn this off, but I just leave that on. I found no difference with that. Phone, there's nothing there. Network and internet, not necessarily something to speed up your PC, but if you go to properties, no, it's not there, sorry. If you go to Wi-Fi, manage known networks, I make sure that all my networks that I don't use anymore are deleted, or I forget them, and that takes them off the system. It just helps your Wi-Fi not to have to scan through a whole lot of networks to try and find the one that is actually working at that time or you have got access to. So as you can see, I've only got 3 I use on a daily basis. So just forget any Wi-Fi networks you know you aren't using. That will just help your Wi-Fi experience. And then there's nothing else over here. Oh yes, obviously airplane mode, make sure that's off if you're not using it. Okay, let's go back to settings. Personalization. What you can do here under colors, I leave it on because I've got a powerful enough PC. But if you have a slower computer, you can turn transparency effects off, and that will just take a bit of the eye candy away. It won't make your taskbar and menus like this transparent, which means it's just less processes having to run in the background. You can turn that off. Well, absolutely harmless to your PC. If I turn it off, that's what happens. You can just see everything goes darker, and it's just less processes that have to run in the background. I'll leave it on because for that one setting, I like a little bit of eye candy. Then if you go to themes, now I am using a theme at the moment. It's called Autumn in Sweden. But my best advice, if you're especially on an older PC running Windows 10, or even any version of Windows for that matter, make sure you don't have a wallpaper changer running in the background, or a Bing wallpaper running in the background that you find in your system tray here, or a Windows theme. Just keep this static picture, which if you right click on the desktop, go to Personalize, and you can then change to picture, and you can choose a picture from your computer and browse for it. It's very simple. That is the easiest if you are running a slower operating system with Windows 10 on, or any version of Windows for that matter. Keep your wallpaper static. It's the safest and fastest. Okay, now let's just go down to Start. Sorry, wrong place. Okay, that's themes. There's nothing else over here. Apps, optional features. Now, here's the optional features that you have on your PC. These are the ones I've left. There is a much longer default list here in Windows 10 on a first install. What you can do, so for example's sake, if you don't use Microsoft Paint, you can go uninstall it, and you can always later, if you go add feature, you can always search for it, and there's a whole list of the stuff here. You can always put it back, so it's quite reversible if you are wanting to install an optional feature. I'll do that as well if my PC does not need it. And then it goes to without saying that if you're running any app here that you don't use or haven't used in a long while, uninstall it. I think the easiest way to speed up your operating system is to uninstall software and apps you are not using on your PC, and that will free up a lot of system processes and startup programs running in the background. That is the safest option. Obviously, if you don't know what it is, just leave it, because it might be something that Windows needs. But if you really know you don't use a program or app, uninstall it, and that will help your PC immensely. And then let's just go down to Startup, and then we've done this already in the Task Manager and the Startup, but this is the system set. This is exactly duplicated in Startup in the system settings, and yeah, just you can double check again what apps you don't need on Startup. Obviously, if you don't know what something is, just leave it, and then you don't want to disable some of your PC needs, but just disable any startup programs you aren't using. And then the next thing is accounts, nothing there. Time and language, nothing there. Gaming, here's another one. If you're not using the Xbox Game Bar, turn it off, because it just kills another service running in the background. Captures, I'll make sure background recording is off. And then game mode is so-called supposed to speed up your PC. Where it says that when game mode is on, Windows optimizes your PC for play. Now, I've found the exact opposite. I find when I put game mode on, my computer becomes unstable and actually feels slower. So I just leave that off, and I do the raw settings myself. I don't want Windows to do stuff in the background that I don't know what it's doing. Ease of access, these are turned off by default, but make sure that your magnifier is off, color filters are off. If you're not obviously a person who doesn't need to use this, just make sure all these are off. And then search. Let's go to search in Windows, and I always make sure it's on classic. It's a much simpler search. And then I go to advanced search indexer settings, and I go to modify, and I go show all locations, and I make sure if there's anything here that I'm not using, I uncheck it if I don't want Windows to search for it, because it just kills more processes that are running in the background. So just do that. If you see something, for example, you definitely aren't using, just uncheck it, and you don't want to search for, you can disable it over there. Let's go there, close, okay. Privacy, another big one. Not necessarily speed up your PC more, but it will help secure your privacy. I make sure all these are off, and I just have let Windows track app launchers. Speech, because I use Cortana, I leave this on. If you're not using Cortana, turn this off. Inking and typing personalization off. Diagnostics and feedback, I keep on required, not optional. Diagnostic data, I make sure tailored experiences is off, and that is off. And then now and again, I go and I delete my diagnostic data, and I make sure feedback frequency is never, because I don't want to be bothered by Windows about feedback all the time. Activity history, I have it on store my activity history on this device, not send my activity history to Microsoft. And then a very big one here for actual apps on your Windows 10, I go to background apps, and here you can uncheck any app you know you aren't using in the background. That must run in the background. This is a big one, guys. If you've got all these apps on here running in the background, your system is going to feel quite sluggish. Turn the apps off you know you don't need to be running in the background. And you can see I've got about 6 or 7. Those are the only ones I want running in the background. Everything I have got else is turned off. And then it goes without saying, update and security. At the end of the day, make sure your Windows is up to date and has the latest patches and cumulative updates and fixes from Microsoft. That goes without saying. And also from a security point of view, make sure that your PC is running the latest Windows updates. And that's the settings menu. If you're still with me, well done. And then we're going to go to, I don't think there's anything in File Explorer. Oh yes, what I like to do is I like to go to my drives, device drives, right click, go properties, and then I uncheck allow files in this drive to have contents indexed in addition to file properties. Now that's a big one. If you're not using search to find documents and pictures and that on your computer a lot, uncheck that, because that is a massive service running in the background, and that this will actually help quite speed up your Windows 10 PC quite a lot if you uncheck that, if you're not using search to search for documents a lot. I know for gaming PCs that I work on, I always turn this off, and video editing computers, I turn this off. And then the other one is exactly the same, properties, and I turn allow files on this drive to contents indexed, I turn that off. Okay, that's all in File Explorer. And then what I like to do is I like to go to the control panel. Now, Windows, the system settings, the settings menu in Windows 10 is taking a lot of the settings over from control panel, because this legacy control panel is something Microsoft is going to be killing off in the near future. So what I like to do is go to administrative tools, and here you have a whole lot of tools you can use to clean up and tweak your computer if you want to. The first one is obviously defragment and optimize drives. This is probably one of the most important things you can do to your Windows 10 operating system if you want to optimize your Windows PC and speed it up, is to do a disk defrag. I do one at least once a week on both of my drives. You can actually see I did this yesterday, 20th of January. Today is the 21st of January. Obviously, you don't fragment SSD drives, only hard disk drives, mainly mechanical hard disk drives. And that's that. And then we go to disk cleanup. I run this at least once a week. And something I want to do here is we go OK. And then what I like to do is I don't like just to run the default. I go clean up system files. OK. And obviously I'm not going to let this run through now. It'll take too long. And then I clean up the system files. Once again, like a storage sense, everything you delete here is quite safe for your operating system to be removed. There's nothing here that will harm your operating system. I'm going to cancel that for the sake of the video. Then I'm going to go to services. Now services, I actually have made a video on this before. I will leave the link in the description below. Disabling some services you don't use, especially on older hardware. and for gaming and video editing machines can help speed up your PC. But once again, if you're a novice, don't fiddle with services. Do your research first, and I will leave the link in the description below of services that I disable by default on any Windows 10 operating system I use when I'm speeding up my operating system. And then I go to System Configuration, almost there, guys. And then I go to Boot, and I make sure, go to Advanced Options, and I make sure my number of processors is set to the maximum amount, number 4. I don't touch the memory. I've fiddled with this setting before, and I find it makes no difference to my performance of my operating system. And I always make sure my number of processors is at the maximum, and I find that this actually does help my personal operating system with better startup times. And then once again, make sure we've changed this setting before, but for the timeout for the startup of your Windows 10 operating system, just make sure that you can always change that to 3. Its default setting is 30. And then services, go hard all Microsoft services, and here's all the services that are running or on your PC that aren't Microsoft services. If you see anything here you definitely aren't using, you can just click on it and go disable, and that will take that away. We've done startup previously, I'm not going to go there again. And then task scheduler, takes a little while to open. Just click on task scheduler library, and I like to, anything you see that you don't want, you see what task scheduler does is it schedules tasks to run in the background, like to update Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome or Brave browser, or my BrenTech drivers for my graphics card, my Wi-Fi, or my BrenTech audio. So if there's anything here you definitely don't want to be a schedule in the background, just click on it and go delete, or disable is the safest option, because then you can always enable it later. And that is also a little tweak you can perform there. Nothing else there. Let's just go along here. A lot of these we've done in system. And fonts. If you've got a lot of fonts, you can see I've only got 81. Now if you are an admin person and you've got tons of fonts on your PC, if there's any you aren't using, remove them, because fonts can actually play a big part, especially if you've got thousands of fonts. Your computer has to go through all of those fonts to find the one it needs. Delete fonts you aren't using, but be careful. If you don't know what you're doing, rather leave this alone. But if you know there are fonts that you definitely don't use, uninstall them. That'll help your usability of your PC. And then let's just go to power options. I have mine on balance because I run a laptop. If you have performance, click on that, and that will give your PC a massive performance boost. But whichever power plan you're using, go to change plan settings, and change advanced power settings. And if I'm on battery, I like my hard drive never to turn off. You can just change that to never. And if I am on battery, to turn my hard drive off after 10, because what this does is your hard drive actually stops and starts, and that can cause problems if you for performance on your PC. So I like, when I'm plugged in, to never put the hard drive into standby, and obviously when I'm on battery, 10 minutes. And then another one over here, if you go to PCI Express, click on that and go, sorry, wrong one, processor power management, click on that, go to maximum processor state, and make sure this is running at 100% for both of those. That makes sure that your processor is running 100% power all the time. Okay, that's power settings. We're almost there. And then programs and features. We've uninstalled in the apps, uninstall apps in the system menu. We've uninstalled programs we don't use, but the same thing again here. There's programs you're not using, uninstall them, because if you definitely know you're not using them, uninstall them, because more programs you have on your PC, there's more stuff running in the background, and that will help speed up your PC. And then over here, turn Windows features on and off. This is the old legacy side of Windows, and for instance, work folders client I never use, I turn that off. PowerShell is actually running, I think, PowerShell 6 on the latest Windows 10. You don't even need PowerShell 2. And then I've unchecked media features, and I've taken Media Player off. And then there's normally an entry here for Internet Explorer, and I have unchecked that and taken that off my system completely, because I don't need those on my PC. They're old legacy, and I don't need them anymore, so I take them off. But be careful, if you don't know what something is, rather just leave it alone. And then I think we're almost there. Oh yes, another one under user accounts is user account control settings. I'll make sure that user account control is turned off, never notify. I don't need it to be telling me every time I go into a system setting that I need administrator privileges or whatever. I just turn that off. I don't need that to be running in the background. And what else? I think that's all in control panel. And I think that's it, guys. So that's what oh yes, one last thing is now and again I run a quick scan with my Windows security, and at least once a week, and basically almost once every 3 days or so, I run a malware scan on my PC just to check there's nothing there. But that's just on the safe side. Make sure you check for malware and viruses very regularly, because obviously that could be detrimental in the performance of your PC. Anyway, if you made it this far, well done. So that is what I go through more or less on my PC and PCs that I work on, to make sure they are running smoothly and efficiently and snappy. And that is what I'll use to speed up my Windows 10 operating system. I hope you found this video useful. Once again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.